This video is sponsored by Skillshare. The first 1,000 people who click the link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. I'll admit, when I saw the announcement about NieR Replicant version 1.22474487139 last year, I can't say I was expecting too much. My initial reaction amounting to, yeah, given the success of Automata, it's probably about time they brought the 2010 cult classic original to a modern audience, and that was about it. But with an awareness of the eccentricities of Yoko Taro and the series he created, I guess it was naive of me to think that this version upgrade, as he puts it, would merely be a mechanical or graphical overhaul, that there wouldn't be anything added or little hidden secrets for longtime fans to dig up. That said, I don't think anyone could have expected what this new edition ended up being, that this re-release of a game that's over a decade old would suddenly get something as substantial as a whole new playable ending to unlock. And not some jokey little aside either, but taking the bones of an idea outlined in the Japanese-only companion book Grimoire NieR and fleshing it out into something far more. An ending that so effectively carries on interrogating the themes of this narrative universe and ties itself back into the game's sequel that, while it's obviously not the literal end of the timeline, almost ends up feeling like the thematic conclusion of the entire series. And the real kicker here is that there's nothing in-game to signify that all of this is even in there to be played. See, after unlocking Ending D, previously the final true ending in the game, and one that you've had to play through the second half multiple times to unlock, you're taken back to a menu with a single lunar tear as the sole reminder that your character ever existed, with events demanding that main character NieR sacrifice himself so that his companion Kaine can be brought back from the brink. In now typical fashion for the series, you've chosen to delete your entire save file, leaving you only with the option of starting a new game should you wish to play again. If you choose to do so, having already played the game for potentially 40 hours like I did, you go through all the same motions as before. You fight off the shades in the hellscape of 2053, you skip over a millennium into the future, harvest the sheep, go to seafront and fish for a bit, you go to the Eyrie where you fight Hook alongside the newly introduced Kaine, she gets downed while pursuing some kind of revenge, whereupon our main character's calling out about the virtues of being strong and carrying on, manage to reach her in the void, and you manage to drag your wounded pal back from the... Wait, what? What's happening here? Well, the last couple of hours you've spent hitting all the beats of the game's intro are now framed as a dream that Kaine is waking up from, and it's revealed that we're now 3 years past the events of Ending D, with Kaine's memory of ever actually meeting this character now totally erased. As she gets up, you take control of her, serrated dual blades and all, for the first time. You are now on a completely different ending path, and one that ends up going to some wild places. Being sent to the Forest of Myth after fighting shades in the Northern Plains, she finds that robots have massacred the residents. Entering the tree they emerged from, she tumbles ever deeper into this web of intertwined, Giger-esque machinery, countering the idyllic green fantasy settings found outside, where mysterious voices, but familiar ones to those who have played Automata, tell her of the tree's actual function as a data storage facility run by these two androids calling themselves administrators, and that by killing the Shadow Lord in the original ending, Project Gestalt, which is its own whole other thing, has ended, and the remaining Gestalts are kinda just kicking about, and she fights a bunch of models of herself, and then Emil shows up, then Kaine beats the shit out of what she's told are her memories, and amidst reliving all of them through fighting old bosses again in oddly familiar environments, she's knocked unconscious by a stronger version of Hook, the boss that brought her into contact with NieR in the first place, and she has a text stream that becomes a nightmare as a happy day with her grandma sees everyone turn to dust before her eyes, and then Grimoire Vice shows up and lends his power to help Kaine defeat Hook and remind her of NieR's existence, whereupon she angrily chastises him for disappearing, at which point the Forest of Myth suddenly sprouts a massive flower resembling a lunar tear, inside which is Kaine cradling a young, reconstructed NieR. Whew. On its own, the sheer spectacle this ending packs into its 40-minute runtime is just absurd, moving at such breakneck speed through several different environments and scenarios that it seems impossible to stop and question how wild it is that you're playing as Kaine, or that versions of 2B and 9S and Emil have shown up from out of nowhere, because by the time you've processed all that, you're fighting several NieR bosses at once in the copied city and tower from Automata, replete with that game's UI, why. It's as disconcerting as it is intensely nostalgic. In a series that has previously been this focused on framing the player as complicit in the action unfolding on screen, here we have a scenario that feels familiar to us, but Kaine has no idea what's going on. And what's more, despite moving through all this stuff so quickly, it somehow manages to find room to breathe with its text adventure section. It's paced unbelievably well. But the real reason I love this ending so much obviously goes way beyond that. How it reframes not only the original game's final moments, but more broadly features we've come to view as part and parcel of Yoko Taro games. Let me explain. NieR is a game that sets out to subvert tropes of RPG heroism, where one anime boy can somehow manage to save the entire planet. Instead, NieR Replicant presents a totally cruel, uncaring universe, whose complexities leave it near impossible to fathom, let alone save. Nihilism is weaved into the very fabric of the world and its denizens, who usually end up either dying horribly and scared, or being lost to the endless void of time, all while your protagonists gradually seem to fall into the role of brutal murderers rather than typical heroes, given the reveal that the enemies you've been cutting down in droves are actually human beings, and yet you return time and time again to unlock the further endings, I guess. With that in mind, the original decision to delete your save and NieR's existence ends up feeling like the one actually heroic deed here, not just in restoring Kaine, but in recognizing your own role in the horrible scenarios that keep playing out here and forcibly extracting yourself from them. It was exactly the same in Automata, that we're trapped in an endless cycle of conflict, and the only way to stop it is to bow out, as if to say, if the player never picked up the controller, maybe this world could be a better place. But Yoko Taro, being the joker that he is, seems to use this new ending to redefine that sacrifice, as momentous and meaningful as it might seem for a player to give up their progress, as just another layer of pseudo-heroic bullshit to be deconstructed. By placing you directly in the shoes of Kaine and having you live out her pain in the 3 years since, Ending E now asks you, what gave you the right to leave me here? I mean, think about it. Outside of ridding her of the Black Scroll, it really doesn't seem like NieR's sacrifice improved Kaine's life in any noticeable way. 3 long years later, and she's still trawling the same fields, killing the same shades over and over again, still cursing them out, killing to distract from the emptiness she feels. She's still deeply unhappy. The only meaningful change that sacrifice brought her is that she now has nightmares as she vaguely remembers something, someone important that isn't there. She's the same Kaine she ever was, it's just that now she's alone. And this ties into a recurring point I saw during my time with NieR Replicant, most heavily exemplified in the relationship between NieR and his sister Yona, the one he's fighting to save through all of this. Throughout NieR's limited interactions with Yona and the townsfolk employing him, you get the feeling that Yona kinda just wanted her brother around, that his presence made her feel better, even if the disease caused by the Black Scroll still brought her constant pain. And with NieR going to such absurd, mythical lengths in his quest to cure his sister, is he sacrificing just, being a big brother? That is to say, is it better to spend all of your time trying desperately to hold back something that you can't fully understand, or is it better, more meaningful, to simply appreciate what you have while you have it? And it's this question that brings us onto the dilemma of Kaine, another person who NieR goes out of his way to save multiple times, even when it's clear she doesn't necessarily want or need the help. NieR kind of gets in the way of Kaine's big moment of revenge, and ends up taking a lot of the work away from her, only to bring her back, spouting a bunch of platitudes about how she's stronger than just giving up, even though he doesn't really know her or her story to make any kind of judgment about that. Then when she does finally grow towards some kind of peace with the dynamic of the group and her role within it, warming to NieR and his friends, he just leaves her. At almost every stage, NieR has taken away some or all of Kaine's agency to decide for herself how she finds meaning or happiness. He tells Kaine that she has to keep going and not to give up, only to, give up himself in a fairly literal way. And just like NieR reached in and grabbed Kaine after the hook fight, the complete existential teardown Kaine goes through in reliving all these traumatic memories she's not fully aware she lived through, that she states outright she doesn't understand, seeing her grandma again only for that dream to crumble in her hands. After 3 long years of painful solitude, she snaps, and her vulgarity and aggression now turns towards bringing NieR back, screaming at him, "Who the fuck are you to decide what's best for me or what I want? Companionship brought my life meaning in this completely fucked world. Your heroism took that from me, and now I'm gonna take it back, you piece of shit." And this powerful defiance manifests in something almost unheard of past the ending of a NieR game. It gives you your old save data back, in exactly as protracted a fashion as it was taken away from you. Just like the game wants you to know how much you're giving up at ending D, you're really made aware of just how big a step this is. And it's kinda weird because ultimately, what are you gonna do with that save data? Go through all of this again? Unlock the same endings again? Well, it's not really about what you do with the save data, more just that it's there again. It exists. You exist. That in itself is important enough to Kaine that whatever comes next doesn't matter. Your existence makes it all worth it. And I don't know, there's something that to me feels oddly empowering or self-affirming about that. And I say odd because, of course, this is a Taro game, so it's impossible that he could leave us with a truly happy ending. The blooming of new life many might read into the ending's massive flower has, in actuality, sent Drakengard fans into something of a meltdown, given that in that series, it's the harbinger of the end of the world. But look, as much as I love how batshit the NieR and Drakengard timeline is, I'm never going to claim to fully understand it, not even close. But in line with Taro's own vision of how he told this story, I'm far more interested in the purer emotional response to this stimuli rather than the exact intricacies of how it all fits together. And with that in mind, it's impossible for me not to read something resolutely positive about this new ending. Through tying all of this so closely to the Automata settings and characters, Ending E brings into stark focus the fact that this saga maybe wasn't truly complete. NieR games have always involved you removing yourself in order to save the world. But, you know, the world's fucked anyway. NieR's sacrifice was still just one stepping stone on the route towards the dystopia of Automata, where the same struggles play out in remarkably similar ways. Automata's ending is incredible, but who's to say it's not all going to cycle around once more after that? Look, if the world is going to end either way, at least Kaine gets to go out reclaiming the agency that was taken from her throughout the original game. No one is flailing about trying to fix the larger world here. Instead, we see a stride into oblivion, middle fingers pointed squarely at whoever is controlling all of this. Anyone could overthink the implications of this ending forever, constantly finding new ways to pick holes in whatever outcome arises, but Kaine doesn't. She's fine with this. In her own words, she's not going back. She can't control where the world will go from here, but she can be happy or fulfilled in that exact moment she's in. Finally, she has found the meaning she's been looking for. And with that, the reason I find Ending E so astonishing is that it takes the potentially endless, existentially draining cycles of conflict and sacrifice the series has always represented and gives it as close to a full stop, dare I say even a happy ending, as we're ever likely to get. And speaking of ending on a high note, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creative and curious people. Explore new skills, deepen existing passions, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare's inspiring online classes, on topics including illustration, photography, video design, and more. If you're into a game like NieR, you're probably into good storytelling, so why not learn how to create your own? Try a class like writing character-driven short stories with Yoon Lee, which will give you practical advice on how to be as economical and evocative with your language as possible, so that you have all the tools you need to write your own 3 to 5 page story. What's more, Skillshare offers classes designed for real life and all the circumstances that come with it. These lessons can help you to stay inspired, express yourself, and introduce you to a community of millions, all for less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. And because Skillshare is sponsoring this video, the first 1,000 people who click my link in the description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium, so there's no risk to checking it out for yourself, and you'll really be helping out the channel in the process. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and I hope you all enjoyed this piece on NieR Replicant. If you liked the video, you can really help the channel by clicking the corresponding button as well as subscribing. I'm also going to be streaming a lot more in the near future, so be sure to follow me at twitch.tv/writingongames to be updated when I'm going live. And check out my podcast in the description too. I'd also like to thank my patrons here. These videos simply would not exist without your support, and I really do mean that. If you've enjoyed any of the videos I've put out and want to help the channel continue so I can keep making more, you can directly help out as well as get things like early access to ad-free video uploads by heading to patreon.com/writingongames and pledging only what you feel comfortable with. I am forever thankful for your support in whatever form it takes. Special thanks go to Mark B. Writing, Artyom Vitsyuk, Nicholas Villeneuve, Captain Knusprich, Ruth Knapman, Leah Chinello, Henry Mielek, Bryce Snyder, Lucas, David Björk, Winter, Timothy Jones, Jordan Midler, Hebe Amori, The Nameless Guy, Tommy Carver Chaplin, Dr. Motorcycle, Shardfire, Rob, Anna Pimentel, Jesse Ryan, Spike Jones, Dallas Keane, Charlie Kimball, and Charlie Yang. And with that, this has been another episode of Writing on Games. Thank you all so much for watching, stay safe, and I will see you all next time.